differences in living organisms. Today, you will understand that all organisms are composed of one or more cells. You can also recognize the presence of a nucleus determines whether a cell is prokaryotic or eukaryotic. Living organisms are made up of small building blocks called cells. A cell is the basic unit of structure in an organism. Cell comes from the Latin word cella, meaning chamber. Cells come in all sizes and shapes, but to see most cells, you need to use a microscope. Organisms may be composed of only one cell or many cells. Single-celled organisms are also known as unicellular, meaning one. Bacteria are most numerous unicellular organisms on Earth. A single-celled organism can carry out all the activities that keep the organism alive and allow it to reproduce, or make more of its own kind. Multicellular organisms, like most fungi, plants, and animals, are composed of many cells. These cells are specialized to do tasks to keep the organisms alive and help it reproduce. Another way to think about the difference in cells is whether it contains a nucleus or not. A nucleus is a dense area in the cell that contains the chemical instructions that direct the cell's activities. Organisms made up of cells without nucleus are called prokaryotes. All eubacteria and archaeobacteria are prokaryotes. Living organisms that are made up of cells that contain a nucleus are called eukaryotes. Hint to remember, you are eukaryote. So the word eu is in there. It sounds like you, so your cells are made up of, they have nucleuses that contain DNA, where prokaryotes do not contain nuclei. Eukaryotic cells tend to be much bigger than prokaryotic cells. Some organisms get their food from consuming other organisms and are known as heterotrophs. Other organisms are responsible for making their own food from a process that's called photosynthesis. This involves taking light from the sun and converting it to chemical energy. So today you have a reading, Characteristics of Organisms, and it's hyperlinked. So you're going to read and then fill out feeding characteristics. And then from the same reading, you're going to fill this out about cellular characteristics. So I'm going to pull up the reading. Reading 1, Characteristics of Organisms. Living organisms are made up of small building blocks called cells. A cell is the basic unit of structure in an organism. The word cell comes from the Latin word cella, meaning chamber. Cells come in all shapes and sizes. Feeding characteristics of organisms. There is a video here. It's also hyperlinked, and you can watch that on your own. Autotrophic. Organisms that make their own food are called autotrophs. Autotrophs means self, and troph means feeder. Therefore, an autotroph is a self-feeder. They use the food that they make as energy source to carry out their life functions. Examples are plants that make their own food by transforming the radiant energy from the sun to chemical energy through the process of photosynthesis. Autotrophs are also known as producers. Heterotrophs are organisms that cannot make their own food and are called heterotrophs. Hetero means other and troph means feeder. A heterotroph must feed off of others. They get their energy from eating autotrophs, plants, or eating other heterotrophs. Heterotrophs are also known as consumers. Heterotrophs transfer the chemical energy from food into other forms of energy they can use. Cellular characteristics, unicellular and multicellular. Here is another video that you can watch on unicellular and multicellular. So unicellular, all organisms are composed of cells. Unicellular organisms are single-celled, one. Equaling one. This one cell carries out all the functions necessary to keep the organism alive. Multicellular, all organisms are composed of cells. Multicellular organisms are made up of many cells. Many. All of the different cells are specialized to do certain tasks. Humans have skin cells, brain cells, blood cells, just to name a few.